And now let's talk about a couple of customizations that we can make in order to make the Lute application better. So the first thing is how to change the font face of the Lute application. The first step for doing so is to know where the Lute application is located on our computer. In order to do so, you should search for IDLE on Windows, and here you should open it. And here you should simply type import Lute, and then you should simply type print Lute dot underline file underline, that's it. And here you should press enter. This is the path, so I copy only this part of the path, that's it, and I paste it here and I press enter. So this is the folder of the Lute application. I need to go to themes folder and then CSS folder, and currently I'm using this theme. But if you are using other themes, you should work with other files. But because I'm using this theme, I need to work with this file. So I should right click and open it with a notepad or whatever other softwares that you have. So you should open it with a text editor. So in this body part, you can see here we have something called font, and here is a list of fonts. And the Lute application is going to look at the first element in this list, which is this font. And if you had this font, the Lute application is going to use that first element. But if you didn't have this first element, this first font, it is going to use the second one. And if you didn't have the second one, it is going to use the third one, and etc. So if you want to choose another font face for the Lute application, we should add that in the beginning of this list. So for example, I want to use another font. So I want to use another font called Kalame, which is a Persian font which supports both English and Persian. That's why I want to use it. Anyway, so remember to put the name of that font that you have on your computer inside these quotation marks. And after that, you should put a comma because it's a list. This is the first element, this is the second one, this is the third one, and so on. So this is the font which I want to use for the Lute application interface. So now if I press Ctrl S on my keyboard, and now if I go to the Lute application and I press F5 in order to refresh the page, you can see I have changed the font face of the Lute application. But now if I open one of these sources, for example, if I open this one, you can see that the font face and the reading mode, when you are reading the text, is different. And in order to change the font face of the reading mode, you should go to that file, and if you scroll down, you can see here which says span text item and these kinds of things. It says font family, and again we have a list of fonts here, and if I want to add that font, let me copy that. So this is the font which I want to use. That's it. And I scroll down, and here I want to add that in the beginning of this list. And after that, I put a comma because it's a list, and this is the first element, second element, and so on. So I press Ctrl S on my keyboard. And once again, if I go to the Lute application and I press F5 in order to refresh the page, you can see the font face has changed. And if you want to change the font size, it's very easy. You should click on this and click on this in order to increase the font size. So I can do so. If you want to have two-column layout, you can click on this to have a two-column layout, and so on. But now let's talk about how to change the keyboard shortcuts of the Lute application. For example, instead of pressing W in order to make a word well-known, I want to press K, and instead of pressing I in order to ignore a word, I want to press X. So in order to do so, you should go to the Lute application folder, which I've talked about it even in this video. And after that, you should go to this folder which says static, and you should open this JS folder. And as you can see, there's a file called Lute.js. So I want to open it. So I right click and I open it with Notepad. And in this page, I should scroll down. You should scroll down and you will see a list of different shortcuts. So I'm searching for that list. So you should scroll down. And there you go. So this is the list of those shortcuts. And as you can see here, it says for making a word well known, I mean for W, it says that you should press the key with the code 87. And maybe you ask, what is 87? So let me show you a website. I will put the link to this website in the description below. And as you can see, every letter has a corresponding code. And for example, for W, it is 87. So if I want to change it to, for example, K, so instead of using that number, I should use this number, which is 75. So let's do that. So in order to do so, yes, I want to change this one. By the way, I want to add a comment so that later on I can figure out that I myself have changed this part of the code. In order to add a comment, you should use 2 slashes, and after that you can type whatever you want to type. So for example, I type my name, which is Sajjad, my first name, and I literally type my name because I want to know that I have changed this part of the code. I myself changed this part of the code. So I'm changing W, which its code is 87, to K, so to K, which its code is 75. That's it. So let's do that. I want to change it to 75. And also I want to change this one as well. So currently it is using 73. So if I go to that website, you can see that 73 is I, but actually I want to use X. X is 88. So once again, I go to that notepad file and I want to add a comment. I put my first name and then, yeah, I is actually 73, but I want to change it to X, which is 88. And now I change it to 88 and I press Control S on my keyboard. But we are not done yet. So once again, if I go to the Lute application and if I click on this, and here you can see we have a page called Keyboard Shortcuts, which if I click on it, you can see here is a page which is kind of help that says, for example, in order to make a word well known, you should press W on your keyboard. And in order to make a word ignored, you should press I on your keyboard. So it's very obvious that we should change this help as well. Otherwise, it's not very beautiful. So anyway, in order to change this help as well, we need to go to the Lute application folder. And after that, we should go to templates. And after that, you can see here we have a page called hotkeys.html. So I right click on it and I open it with Notepad. And here I should scroll down. And as you can see, it says well known. And here it says W. So I want to change it to K. And for ignored, I want to change it to X. That's it. So I press Control S on my keyboard. But once again, we are not done yet. So if you refresh this page, nothing is going to happen. Why? Because first of all, you should close this command window because actually the Lute application is running and you have made some customizations. So you should completely close this window. And once again, you should open this window and simply type the same thing, which I have told in previous videos. I mean, you should launch the Lute application. So Python m lute.main. So actually I closed the Lute application and now I'm running the Lute application again. So now if I press F5 on my keyboard, you can see all the stuff has changed. So let's close this. And also let's close this as well and make sure to refresh this page. If you don't refresh this page, nothing is going to work. So make sure to refresh this page. And after refreshing the page, so for example, let's change the status of this word, for example, to 1. And after that, if I want to make this word as well known, instead of pressing W on my keyboard, I need to press K on my keyboard. That's it. And from now on, it's going to work in other sources as well. If you want to make a word well known, you should press K on your keyboard. If you want to make a word ignored, you should press X on your keyboard. But now let's talk about how to change these colors. For example, if you click on a word, you can see we have a kind of a spectrum like this. And suppose that I want to change the color of this cell, I mean status number 5. In order to do so, first of all, you need to go to the Lute application folder. This is that folder. And after that, you should go to themes and you should go to CSS folder. And this is the theme which I'm currently using. So I right click and open it with Notepad. And here, as you can see, it says status 5 color. The only thing that you need to do is change this color. That's it. But these colors are, we are using some codes in order to specify each color. And maybe you ask, how can I find the code of the corresponding color which I myself like? In order to do so, first of all, you should search color wheel on Google and you can find some websites. For example, let's choose one of them. I mean, this one. And for example, if you choose different colors, for example, you can see, let's suppose that I want to choose this color. You can see this is the code of that color. And you can use that code for your Lute application. For example, I myself want to use white color, and the code for white color is FFFFFF. That's it. I mean 6F. So that's it. I press Ctrl S on my keyboard. And once again, if I go to the Lute application and if I press F5 on my keyboard in order to refresh the page, and if I click on one of these words, you can see I have changed the color of a status 5 to white. And for example, if I choose a status 5 and I press save, you can see this word, the background color of this is white. For example, if I press 1 on my keyboard, this is a status number 1, a status number 2, status number 3, 4, and this is a status number 5. And again, in order to make this well known, I should press K on my keyboard. By the way, I should mention that if you reinstall this application, if you uninstall this application and install it again, or if you update this application, those changes that you have made in this application, in these folders and in these files are going to be evaporated. So if you want to keep them, you should make a copy of these files and later on do the same thing again. And by the way, the other funny solution is to not update or reinstall this application, which is not a good thing, but that's another solution as well, but it's a funny solution and it's not a good solution. And here are 2 videos which I suggest you to watch as well. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.